Hi guys, this is Jason Sport here, and you're in my soldering room, I guess you'd call it. And we're looking at the shocks, the Hobbypark shock that you can get on Amazon for the Traxxas. I've got my Stampede here, and we're going to show you what you can do to fix these shocks. So here we go. We're going to do our best to make these cheap Chinese shocks much better, solve the problems that you guys might be having. These are the Hobbypark shocks that are recommended for the upgrade for the Slash and whatnot. I bought them on Amazon. I'll be linking below where I got them and the price. I think they're like $36 for the shocks. Anyway, most people seem to complain about these because they say they leak. It's one of the major components or major problems of these. So we'll get right into it. These ones actually are a lot bigger. They're about the size of the GTR shocks. So let's tear this sucker down. I've already done a couple of shocks up here. So it's a little bit loose. And that is extra tight. So I gotta wrap a little bit of silicone around that sucker and get some non-marring pliers. Try to get that broke loose. There we go. Oops, dropping crap that I gotta show you later. Okay, so these come unfilled. I don't care if they say they are filled or not. They're garbage, whatever they think they might put in there, so I would never use the stuff they got in there. So what comes with it is some really nasty smelling, I think it's some petroleum-based oil preservative to keep the rust and whatnot out of it. But it is definitely yellow, and that does not mix with silicone shock fluids. So we are definitely going to need to clean these before reassembly. So let me get my shock pliers back out again. Where did I just think I put them? That's what you have when you got a messy workstation like I've got here. Okay, grab a hold of that shaft. Let's pull this down. Which I should have done with you guys first, but these are larger shafts than what I've seen normally. In most shocks, these are 4mm shafts. So it's going to be an issue trying to find a replacement for them, I do believe. So let's pull this out of there. So what I do believe the problem is going to be is right here, the seal with leaking. These down here, which, let's take a look here. We've got an O-ring. Yep, that's the problem. So we've got two O-rings in there, but we don't have any spacer whatsoever. It's been the same with every one of these other shocks that I have here. And this is the problem why these suckers leak. Get these pushed back in here so you can see. There needs to be a spacer in between these O-rings that help control the O-ring. They, now that I've got them in there, if you can see that, there is quite a gap there where when this isn't inset at all, it's completely flush on the cap. So when this is on there, those O-rings have a lot of movement back and forth that they can do up and down as pressure is being applied inside the shock cavity. So this is not good. That's not what you're supposed to have in any shock. You're supposed to have a spacer, some type of plastic or Depron or Teflon spacer there. So in doing this, what I found is grab a set of these 5134 off-the-shelf Traxxas. I believe these are some shims, caster spacers and shims. So out of here, you won't use these little clip things, but these black spacers you got here, I made a cut. Let's get that sucker out of there. The suckers are pretty dang close to what we're going to need. So right off the bat, they don't fit inside. So we're going to have to do some modification to get them out of there. So what works good, that's worked for me. You guys can try what you like, but let's get this torn down the rest of the way. Okay, washer there. So these little spacers that come with it fit perfectly right over that cap side right there. So what we're going to do is put that on. We're going to tighten that back down. Okay. That's good. All right. So we're going to get the trusty drill and we're going to chuck it up just like you would a drill bit. Instead, we're going to sand these suckers down. So after you're done on just a little bit here, yeah, let's get those back out of there so I got a little bit more room for that bolt head. So we can just do a check. Nope, we're not there yet. Nope. Oh, a little tight, but it's there. A little bit more. And good. I'm going to call that good now. So I'll take that back out. Take this off. And the next step is going to be drilling out the centers so that they fit the shaft. So hopefully you guys, to do this, it's sometimes a little bit harder to find metric drill bits here in the States. So what I found, I do have a set of metrics, but this set from Harbor Freight is a wire gauge or metal gauge type of drill bits. So these ones got a lot more in between sizes that are going to get you closer for metrics, and the standard regular sizes don't. You can use them at the, if that's all you're going to be able to use or try, then a 11/64 drill bit is going to get you close to what you need. It's a little bit large, but precision is not what we really need here, or I should say not what we need, but it's not required for this one. So basically for us, we're going to be stepping to a 19 or a 20 size drill bit, the gauge. But a couple things to note on these. If you try going directly to the finished size that you need, what you're going to end up with is something like this. That is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's all messed up. I had to end up going and buying another set because I screwed this one up so badly. But one of the problems you run into is when you're trying to hold these with the pliers, and you get them right to where you want it. And if you're squeezing hard enough to hold it and you're drilling through, you're going to squeeze the plastic and it's going to oblong the hole. So go with the smaller size for sure. But on this one, I tried going directly to the right size right off the bat, and it grabbed the plastic and just totally messed up my hole. So the best way to do it is to start with a lot smaller drill bit, find one that goes through, and then go to the next size up that doesn't, and just step them up. one drill bit at a time till you get to your final size. So we're going to do just that here. So I'm going to get a, let's see, I'm going to start with here. It's 30 fits too easy. 27's a bit large. We'll go to that one. All right, that one works. So we'll do a 29. We'll start with a 29 size drill bit gauge, I should say. And to get it flush, I like to try to leave it flat on the table. Push it down, push the drill down to get it all nice and even. And then normally, let's see if I got that little chunk of wood here. There we go. So we can drill through it. So, alright, so the first one's done. You can take a look at it after you're done with each one and see if you've oblonged the hole any. Didn't have to grip it too hard, so it's not real evident of any elongation of the hole. So we're going to, what did I get again? It's a 29. Okay. So now I'm going to go to a 27, which is larger than wire gauge sizes. Alright, that one went through pretty smooth. Oh, good. No elongation still. Didn't have to grab this one very hard to hold it, so that's good. Also putting it down on the ground or on a piece of wood kind of gives it a little more friction too. Too much, so or not enough. So let's go ahead and go to our 19 gauge. Try not to grip it real hard, just enough to get it to not spin. Aha! So there we are. It's just a little bit of grab, but we got to clean up that hole just a touch. So I'm just going to lightly scrape it along the edge with an angle, at an angle. Get some of that flash, that leftover crap out of there. And there we are. Let's try to fit again. And yep, it's not perfect along, but anyway, we're good. We're good. It's not dragging on that too terribly. And we'll do another fitment, stick it in, and yep, it slides okay. So I'm going to clean these up some. I like using rubbing alcohol to clean stuff, but oops, here I go bumping the camera. So one thing though about the rubbing alcohol is it's kind of hard to get right now with this stupid virus crap going around. People are buying the crap out of this alcohol, so you can use soap and water or get a little detergent, some electrical cleaner that doesn't harm rubber, and clean this board just a little bit. Okay, good enough for now. Let that sucker dry a second. Now assembly. I'm going to use a little bit of shock oil. Oop, here I'm making a frickin' mess. Use a little bit of shock oil, drip on these just for initial lubrication. Then you you stick one O-ring in there, and then you want the spacer be next. Actually, I want to smooth that out just a hair. If I really was going to nitpick this, I'd do a little more polishing, but I think we're going to be good. It's just plastic, it won't wear out much. So there we go. Get some oil on that for my fingers, and there we go, third O-ring. Now if you're able to see, it's pushed flush. I don't know if I can get the right angle on it, but now the O-ring sticks up just a little bit from flush. So that's a good sign, because that's when we put that cap on, it's going to squeeze that down and provide a much better seal. So we'll do a quick little push through test. And there we are. We'll put the cap on. And you feel some resistance before it goes. And oh yeah, I can feel resistance there. That's good. That's great. Once we get a little oil in there, it'll loosen up some. That's what we were wanting. So there you have it. So now we can finish up the rest of the cleaning of this stuff and start reassembling it and get it back together. But that's how you fix these Chinese shocks to keep them from leaking. Just get you some of those plastic spacers, do a little modification. You can use aluminum spacers as well if you like. If you can, they're easier to drill. You don't have to worry as much about the elongation stuff. So, but anyway, hope you guys find this useful. But that's how you can make some poor man GTR shocks work. The only thing that I don't like, or that's kind of bad about them, well, I'll do a measurement so you guys can see too. So the inside diameter of these shocks, we've got 1376 millimeters inside diameter. So that is definitely a lot bigger than what the stock ones are, which are only 10. And the length on these short ones, which will be up front, is 39.5, which is basically 40 millimeters. And then the longer cases are, nope, actually the cases are exactly the same. I forgot. It's the shafts that are longer. So at least now that's how you can fix the leaking problem with these cheap shocks. I'll be looking at figuring out where to get some of the other replacement stuff, what stuff might be able to work for it. So if you break a shaft or these the shock ends, I've seen a few Traxxas parts off the shelf that'll be able to work. It's a little bit smaller. The GTR ones possibly will be able to work. With a little bit of modification, might just need to drill the hole a little bit bigger for that 4mm shaft, and then you just put a little lubricant on there and force screw that in to cut the threads. So this part won't be a big of an issue to replace, but maybe these caps, these lower caps and shafts will be the issue to get replaced. But at the $36 price from Amazon, that's not too bad for making this a much cheaper hobby. So anyways, I'm going to continue getting these filled, and we'll be back with you with the finished product and do some testing and show you what we got. This is the shocks on there. So they fit nice. There's no rubbing. Didn't have to use any spacers to bring the shocks out. But what I did do is I ran the shafts are a bit longer than the stock ones, so I went ahead and moved this out to the outside hole. I might try to get some other shock towers than the aluminum ones that have a little bit more adjustment, so maybe a little bit higher holes that I can stick those in. But anyway, overall, the vehicle's, it's fun to drive and has held up pretty well. Give you a little tour. I got Savox waterproof servo in there. I'm running an 8th scale 120 amp ESC. It is one of those El Cheapos, but it's an 8 scale. I've got the all the specs down in the down below, and then motor wise, I'm running a I believe it's a Hobbystar 4-pole. I think 3600 kV motor. This 4-pole motor, it sure is torquey. It's got guts to it. You'll see. I'll do a little driving video if the weather clears up. And there's my 3S LiPo battery. I've got the aluminum shaft I still got to put in there, and I do have the Integy front axles upgrades, because the stock ones with this motor and that 3S battery, I kept blowing the crap out of all these front shafts. The back ones seem to be just fine, but these front ones, I couldn't keep them under the truck. So I don't know, maybe your mileage may vary, but anyway, that's the truck. Let's go out and give it a try. Alright guys, so we've got the shocks installed on the Stampede, and after letting the truck sit for about 3 days, because we had some bad weather here, I took a look and there is absolutely no leaking going on yet. And so we went out and ran a few battery packs through it. I got about 3S battery packs through it, and man, the truck sat for another couple of days. No leaks. Still don't have any leaks yet, so looks like we're going to be good to go so far. And initially, the durability seems to be just fine. Everybody drives trucks and RC differently, and you got different environments. And let's face it, there's imperfections in manufacturing as well. So depending on how hard you're driving the truck, you're going to break stuff anyway. So you can't really fault one part from just some bad review that you get on there. It sometimes can be consistent, like the Amazon reviews on these shocks are really consistently saying that they're really bad, but I think that they just don't know how to set them up properly, possibly, and maybe they could have gotten some bad shocks and gave up on them right off the bat instead of trying to fix the issues with them, and maybe they lack the skill or understanding about how to fix the shocks. So anyway, the only issues that I'm going to say right now is we're going to need to find a replacement for these shock shafts. I haven't had an issue with any of the other caps and stuff yet, but if we do break a shaft, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to find them, because it seems like they're 4mm shafts, and they're not as long as a lot of the 8 scale. 8 scale has 4mm shafts, but they seem to be a bit long. So Red Cat Racing sells some. They do have them on their 8 scale vehicles, but I can't find anywhere online that shows what the lengths of their shafts are. So if any of you guys out there have Red Cat Racing trucks, and you can tell me and do some measurements on some of your shock shafts, if you've got a spare pair laying around, that way I can try to figure out which part number of Red Cat Racing or maybe another manufacturer might have some shafts that we can use as replacements for these, instead of having to order a whole new set of shocks. Now, they are fairly cheap shocks, so I mean, you could probably buy 3 sets for the price you could pay for a set of GTR shocks. And frankly, if you break a GTR shock, then you're going to break these ones too. So I don't think there's a whole lot of difference when it comes to the manufacturing quality wise, and that's my own personal opinion, of course. So take it with a grain of salt. Everybody is going to have their own opinions about stuff, so I only do these videos to help other people try try to do this hobby as cheap as possible and not break the bank, especially you got a bunch of kids that you got trucks for, and you don't need to be buying, you know, 3 sets of GTR shocks for all your kids' cars and stuff. So anyway, so far so good. I'm liking the shocks. Started out with 45 weight oil in them, and I don't know, they're a little bit spongy and a little bit long, so I might run it a little bit longer and then maybe change my shock fluid out and see if I want to go up or down with it. So I don't usually take enormous jumps with it, you know. I only get about 4 or 5 feet in the air and hit the ground and tumble sometimes and stuff like that. So if you're catching some major air, you're jumping 15 feet in the air or something, whatever, 10, 15 feet, whatever, you're throwing it off your deck to start running, then maybe you need some heavier shock fluid, maybe run some 50 or 60 weight oil in that sucker. But you do know it's got to understand that that's going to reduce the shock action in whoops and rough sections. So where the shock's not going to be able to respond to the terrain as well, it'll more bump and hit across that terrain, or maybe if you're fast enough you're going to glide across it. But either way, depending on whatever your driving style and terrain that you like to drive on, you're going to have to adjust your shock fluids, your oils, depending on what you're going to do. And maybe if you want to change your pistons and drill the holes out, whatever, feel free. It's yours. So, you know, do what you want with it.